Hello, fellow Pokemon trainers. This is Paradox 2767, and today, let's chat about Cyllene. I was playing through Pokémon Legends Arceus recently, and Cyllene quickly became one of my favorite characters in the game. This probably comes as no surprise, as it seems she was given the most depth of all the game's NPCs. On the surface, she comes across as relatively cold and businesslike, but as the game progresses, more nuanced aspects of her personality shine through. For instance, despite her chalkboard's note on diligence, the rest of her office is kinda messy, and she doesn't seem too keen on tackling the stacks of paperwork on her desk. She's also kinder than she looks, as is seen during the portion of the game where she gives you some life advice and lends you her Abra during your exile from Jubilife Village. Then of course there's her fear of bugs, despite her extensive experience murdering Pokemon in cold blood. Wait, what? You missed that part? Well, after one of your battles with Zisu's crew in the Path of Tenacity, she mentions that Cyllene's one of the best swordswomen she knows. And what exactly would Cyllene have been using her swords on? Well, many people take Heracross's Hisuian Pokédex entry as proof that people in Pokemon used to engage in physical combat, as the Pokemon's listed as capable of throwing several people trained in the traditional arts of war at once. So, it's likely Cyllene's blade is well familiar with the blood of Pokemon, in a time before people figured out they could capture and train the creatures instead of killing them all Samurai Jack style, even if Cyllene likely focused on other Pokemon than Heracross, what with the whole bug-fearing thing. So anyway, she's a nerd for plants and rocks, but she's also pretty good in a scrap, just the kind of mix I like to see in a hero. In the end, Pokémon Legends Arceus gives us an interesting character in Cyllene, chipping away at her icy exterior more and more as the game progresses. So, of course, I wanted even more. Enter the anime Pokémon Hisuian Snow. Though the miniseries focuses primarily on the character Alec and his relationship with wild Pokemon, it also gives us a lot of background on the character Cyllene. For one thing, she's shown in a red Security Corps uniform instead of the Survey Corps blue she wears in the game. This of course makes sense, as Hisuian Snow takes place before the Survey Corps was formed. Now, when I first watched the show, I assumed Zisu was still the leader of the Survey Corps back then, and that she must have ordered Cyllene to start the Survey Corps between the events of the show and the game. So I found it odd that Cyllene was always the one shown leading the team in the anime. Then, I put two and two together. Cyllene is not just another member of the Galaxy team, she's an official captain, Commander Kamado's second in command, and that right there tells you a lot about Cyllene's growth in Hisuian Snow. She goes from captaining the Security Corps, slicing down Pokemon left and right, to starting a new corps entirely, dedicated to understanding the wildlife of Hisui. She's even willing to take a step down in terms of leadership to do this, likely putting her career on the line by applying herself completely to the grassroots Survey Corps. After all, with the Security Corps, she was a leader to Zisu, Netta, Rest, Tsumugi, Dorian, Q, Wanda, Ren, Beauregard, Baggin, and probably some others I'm missing. With the Survey Corps, she had no one to lead, then later Akari and Laventon. But why would she take this risk for the sake of understanding Pokemon? What's the impetus to this great change within her? In a name, Alec. Cyllene's first appearance in the anime puts her wariness of Pokemon on full display. She's shown guarding Jubilife's gate when the visiting boy Alec runs out to help a small, injured Rufflet. Instead of offering her assistance, Cyllene orders the gate closed to teach him a lesson. The walls of the village are there for a reason. But Alec remains undeterred. Later in the anime, Cyllene sees him stick his neck out further when he rushes headlong into a space-time distortion to save a pair of injured Snovers. Through his actions, he shows Cyllene a new way to interact with all the strange creatures surrounding the village. Then at last, near the miniseries' conclusion, Cyllene sees Alec holding a mask gifted to him by a Zorua he befriended as a kid, cementing the idea for her that the relationships between people and Pokemon can be symbiotic. The episode ends with Cyllene allowing several injured Pokemon into Jubilife for treatment, including of course the Abra seen in her office in Pokémon Legends Arceus. From there, we can assume she proceeds cautiously optimistic, starting up the Survey Corps to further study the possibility of people and Pokemon's cohabitation. This is significant because of course the Survey Corps paved the way for the modern system of catching and training Pokemon as we know it. But after all that, I was still left with a few questions. With nowhere else to go, I sent a homing Rufflet into the past through a space-time distortion with a few of my questions. Cyllene recorded her answers in an old-timey phonograph, then sent her recordings back.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Yastishock and I'm the English voice of Cyllene in Pokémon Hisuian Snow. I am beyond excited to be here answering these questions, and I'm so grateful you reached out. Thank you for having me. All the answers, thoughts, opinions, and discoveries that I share with you today are purely my own based on my own personal experience voicing Cyllene in English.
The first thing I had to ask was why an Abra got to be Cyllene's Pokemon of choice in both the anime and the game.
The more I got to know Cyllene, the more it made total sense that she had an Abra. When you consider her role in the village, she kinda has to be everywhere all at once to make sure things are running smoothly. And who better than an Abra to help with that, who can teleport and be a second set of eyes? On top of that, Abras are quiet, which is nice, and they can help with administrative tasks and things that need to be done telepathically without lifting a finger. Plus, they're really good at getting rid of the occasional wormhole that get into the office.
Then, with the ice broken, I couldn't help but bring up Team Galactic's boss Cyrus from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, who's widely assumed to be a descendant of Cyllene. Cyrus is known for seeing emotion as a weakness and for his plans to destroy, then recreate the universe with himself as its stoic leader. His crimes include kidnapping, animal cruelty, and unethical experimentation, among others, and I wondered whether any of that cruel streak existed in Cyllene.
To put it really simply, no, I really don't think so. I can totally understand initial skepticism towards Cyllene, especially because when we first meet her, she's not very friendly, she's kind of cold, and she's certainly not welcoming. So, of course, that could lead someone to think, well, what's this person's deal? Are they good? Are they evil? Do they have a secret plan? But I think the more we observe Cyllene, the more we realize that that demeanor is born out of a very sincere and very serious sense of duty and responsibility to the people of her village.
What would she say to Cyrus if they could somehow meet, perhaps under the purple dome of another space-time distortion?
I think if she were to ever meet somebody, whether it was a supposed relative or otherwise who was the antithesis of her, I don't know if she would have much to say. Instead, I think she would almost stay silent and just prepare to do whatever it took to protect her village and the Pokémon that live within it.
Finally, wary of taking up too much of the captain's time, I concluded my questioning by asking if there was anything else about Cyllene we should know.
The cool thing about Cyllene is I learned the most about her by just watching her. What Pokémon Hisuian Snow does so well is adhere to the storytelling principle of show, don't tell. And when you think about it, Pokémon Hisuian Snow is not a dialogue-heavy show, and we learn the most about these characters and who they are by watching them. And I actually get really excited and really emotional about Cyllene's journey with Pokémon in particular because she goes from standing at the edge of this forest, peering in, wondering what's going on in the purple sphere out in the distance, to saying, okay, we're going in, but it's not about the Pokémon, it's about this village. She doesn't even take a sword or anything like that with her. And I'd really like to think she's never used one against Pokémon. And even when she sees the Garchomp, she's not rushing in, she's standoffish, she's cautious. But the minute Alec reveals there are weak Pokémon and baby Pokémon that are in danger and need their help, she jumps in right away. And then we see these beautiful images of her bringing in injured Pokémon, holding babies, holding her Abra that she ultimately adopts at the end. And it was all told in this beautiful silence that just makes me a sobbing mess every time. I think Cyllene is incredible, and I've felt that way ever since I first met her in Pokémon Legends Arceus, long before I ever knew I was going to get this amazing blessing of voicing her in English. I related to her in a lot of ways, and I saw a lot of myself in her early on, and I think ultimately that's what helped me to properly understand and embody her and give you these answers today. We both share that sense of duty and responsibility to our causes and the ones we love and the ones we want to protect. I definitely share in that militant attitude and that get stuff done attitude, and I immediately recognize the deep empathy that fuels that mentality. I also study swordsmanship, and I think that's really awesome. I just think Cyllene is wonderful, she's strong, she's inspirational, especially to me, and I hope everyone who gets to see her in Pokémon Hisuian Snow really enjoys her like I do and loves her like I do. I just think she's fantastic. I love Cyllene, forever and always.
Then Cyllene's recording ended, leaving us all to contemplate the complicated character she is. I hope you all learned something from your time with me and the Captain. I know I did, and I want to thank Alexandra Yastishock, or Captain Cyllene, for chatting with us today.